everybody. Welcome to Busy Living Sober. Busy Living Sober. Busy Living Sober. What up? What
Hi.
up? What up?
Good evening.
Good evening.
It's late.
It's late. What time is it? Oh, it's not that late.
It's late for us.
Do you know what today is? Episode
212.
212 means 212. Area code for New York City, 212.
How about that?
And it is episode 212.
That's exciting.
Pretty exciting stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Still in my workout clothes.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about, we've left step 3.
We have.
We're embarking on step 4.
How about that?
Yeah.
Made a fearless and searching moral inventory.
No, made a fearless and thorough moral inventory of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I find it, and I actually thought about it today. I've heard many people be scared of this one. And
yes.
Really scared.
Well, a lot of people unfortunately, a lot of people kind of get to this point and then they
go away.
They leave.
They're like, done. I'm done. I'm not doing this.
Mm-hmm.
That first stuff was kind of okay, but this thing is just, oh, wait a minute. This is getting too deep.
Mm-hmm.
Too deep.
Yes. They want to let the sleeping dogs lie.
Let the skeletons stay in the closet where they belong.
Exactly. But somehow, somewhere, someplace, I heard somebody say something like, you're only as sick as your secrets.
I've heard that.
Mm-hmm. So this is a great opportunity to not have any secrets.
It's a huge opportunity. And they say any good business does a very thorough inventory.
That's true. Even though we're not a good business.
We're not a business, but, as human beings,
mm-hmm.
Like we have to get a clean slate. And I think that sometimes people don't think they can get a clean slate. Or if I have to tell somebody how bad my slate really was, they're not going to like me. They're going to judge me. They're not going to want to be my friend. Sure.
I think a lot of it is, doesn't even have to, it's funny. A lot of it is just stuff we carry around that doesn't even really deal with other people. It's just these things that can keep us up in the middle, wake us up in the middle of the night, and stuff you don't want anybody to ever find out.
Right.
And most of it's, I've done this myself. I've done it with a bunch of other people, and it's,
What do you mean? What have you done a bunch with? Are you talking about yourself personally, or what do you? I don't.
I've done it myself. I've done my own 4th step.
Okay, yeah, that's what I'm understanding.
And I've listened to other people's 4th steps, and I've never revealed. I've just never heard anything that was like that. Oh my God, nothing shocked me. Nothing was. It's all in our heads. And
that's why it's so in our heads.
That's why it's so good to get it out.
Well, it's so good to get it out. It's so cleansing.
What is?
And when people would say, "Oh my God, I'm so scared to do a 4-step," for me, and my first 4-step.
Mm-hmm.
I still remember it because everybody around me was like, "This is scary," and I'm like, "Well, if I don't know what my stuff is, no one else will."
Mm-hmm. Number
1. Number 2, I didn't go back that far. I know some people, my experience is completely different than yours.
Mm-hmm.
And so mine, I was like, all right, I'm just going to glance back. I was not going to go, oh my God, let me stare and let me go figure out everything I did since I was in 1st grade, which I wouldn't remember anyway, because I have a horrible memory.
You always remember everything I do.
Well, some things, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't remember stuff from back then. So, but the longer I stayed sober, more would come up. But in the beginning, I was like, yeah, I'm not going all the way back there. But I just did it. I just did as much as I could do.
Sure, it's part of the program, and you just go along with the program. And what
did you have to do?
What I learned from myself was that, or this is the way I look at it myself, is that you go through life, and things happen, and somehow, before you know it, you're dragging around this wagon full of crap behind you, And
we don't mean clothes or suitcases or things like that.
I mean, it's crap.
It's emotional stuff.
Yes. And
It's emotion. It's all emotional.
And it's just a wagon load of it.
It's
And
heavy.
it is. And so this is the opportunity to start lightening that up. And that's what I learned like the first time that I went through and did this was like, wow, this like, it feels good to get rid of some of this stuff.
Yeah.
It really does. And, my experience was as time went on, like you said, like you couldn't remember a lot of things. And what I found was like, the longer I was sober, the more I could remember. And so therefore I could like do more stuff. I could lighten my load up more,
I didn't know that I wanted to go back there yet. I didn't think I could handle it emotionally, probably.
Mm-hmm. Could be.
I know that.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was like, but I want to do this because I want to be sober more than I want to be drunk.
Mm-hmm.
So the stuff that's there that I'm willing to divulge the first time, I want to be willing to do that. I want to do that. So I'm going to do whatever I can to keep moving on the process because I wanted to do I wanted to graduate summa cum laude from these steps.
Right.
And so the first time I did it, it was very, it was cathartic and it was good. And I wrote it out. But what happened to you? What happened to you?
The first time?
Yeah.
Well, the first time I did it, I had, you guys have heard me talk about my sponsor, Pete, before. She's getting up to let the dog in. And, so Pete wanted me to do this fourth step. And he gave me some things to read. He said, read this in the big book. It's not much. And then read this in the 12 steps and 12 traditions. Read the one about the fourth step and just read that. And then you'll sit down, you'll just do it. And then when you're done, let me know. And we'll talk about it. So he didn't really give me a lot. He was not very hands-on, as it were. And I was probably, I don't know, I was somewhere between 3 and 6 months sober. I don't remember exactly. And I was still really in la la land. I really was. So I read this stuff and I thought about it, and I thought about it for like 2 weeks, and I called up and I said, Pete, I read everything you told me to read, and I thought about it. And I gotta be honest with you, I really don't have any character defects. So then he said, oh, geez. Well, okay. Well, maybe let's try a different tack then. Do you know what the 7 deadly sins are? And I really didn't. So he told me what the 7 deadly sins are.
What are they?
I don't know. There's sloth, there's envy, there's greed, there's stuff like that. I don't remember exactly what they are.
Okay.
And he said, why don't you write like, a little blurb about each of the 7 deadly sins and how that applies to your life. And that I was able to do. And it got me on my way, because it got me thinking about, it really got me thinking in the right direction of, the fearless and thorough moral inventory. And not shortly thereafter, I was actually able to sit down and do a real 4th step, as you're supposed to do it in the big book.
Okay, so the 7 deadly sins they're typically ordered as pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, wrath, and sloth. Sloth.
There you go.
There was a thought. You said that one.
I think that one's important to me. That's why.
Yeah. I don't want to be lazy.
No. So, and what I believe anyway is that, it's just like everything else in this program. You have to be willing. As long as you're willing, that's good enough. And you'll be as fearless and thorough as you are capable of being at that time whenever you do it, and you will. And what'll happen is, and it too, some time will go by and it'll dawn on you like, oh, I think I could be a little more fearless and a little more thorough than I was, whenever I did that last one. And I would like to do it again, because I still feel like there's still stuff in my wagon that I want to get rid of.
But I can say this, that for me, even lightening the load a little bit, that first time I did it was good.
Oh, it's great.
Oh my God, the lightening the load, even just a little bit. Like, even if you can lighten it for like a little bit, just even a little take a couple things out of that wagon and give them to somebody else. It's just so freeing.
Well,
it's just so freeing. And I think that's like, it's so.
And the best part about it is, for me, is like, once it's out of the wagon, it never comes back again. It's just gone. Whatever that stuff was.
I agree.
You
Yeah.
you may put some new stuff in there. It's up to you.
Well, I think we're all human, so we do
Uh-huh.
human things. I think that, but doing that inventory and doing it in a way that was like, I really, I think that there's stuff that you carry around that's so scary. And I'm going to go back to like getting a fellow traveler or sponsor, whatever you want to call it.
Mhm.
It's, they don't even sometimes like to have labels to people that help you along the way. And whoever it is that you go to, if it's let's say it's a priest, say it's a friend, say it's a relative, whoever it is that you're going to do this process with, of clearing out your wreckage of your past and writing these things down, make sure it's somebody you feel that you can be honest with, and someone that isn't going to judge you. Because I think that is really important, because I think that if you are with someone, if your confidant, your sponsor, your fellow traveler, whatever you want to call it, is not someone that you feel like you can pick up the phone and tell them anything, that probably shouldn't be the person that you're using. And you might say to me, but that's who I want to use. And but finding someone that you can be your authentic self with is just like the most important thing ever.
Right.
Like, I just think that's the most, and we're not at that part of you telling it to someone, but I just think that if you're with someone that's saying to you, you have to do 4-step, you have to do 4-step, you have to do 4-step, and you're like, wait a minute, I don't get it. I don't want to do it. It's too scary. And if the person doesn't hear you or doesn't give you advice or hand holding, I think there's something that needs to be revisited with the person that you're walking with. That's my opinion, because I think that especially in some 12-step programs, the ones that I've been to, there's some people out there that are not always out for your best interest and are not always, I just think it's sometimes I want to make that transparent. And you might be like, well, the one I go to, the person isn't that great, or da, da, da. I'm going to tell you, if you haven't found the right person, there is the right person there. You just haven't found them in that spot.
You'll find a great person if you.
Right. If you have to look. And it's like, I have to think that it's like, I didn't like everybody in the bars I went to, so I had to go to different bars, right? It's not like you're going to like everybody in the first meeting and might not like all the people that are there. There's no one that you feel comfortable with. If you don't find anybody there, go to another one. And if that means even online, I've had people, come online and,
Sure.
And said, and reached out to me. And I've been happy to do that. It's been an honor, actually. It's been a very big growing experience for me, as being able to help people, fellow travelers, get through this one day at a time, because this is such a cunning, baffling, powerful disease. And, for so long, I thought that, I was a bad person because I had this disease. And, I didn't know that I could ever get better. And you can get better.
Absolutely.
And you can lighten your load, even if you do it one little package at a time. And it's not how much, it's just that you do it at least once. Because if you do it once, then it's not as scary as it proceeds itself to be.
Right. And a big part of it too, and I think a big part of the load for me anyway was, a big part of it is all, all the people that you have resentments towards, which is like, that's an easy place I think it's an easy place to start in doing the 4th step, is just to get all the people that you have resentments towards down. Because what happens is you write it all down, and like you've done this. So many of it, like so much of it, as you're writing it down, you're like, why do I have this? Like, it's time to let this go. It's already gone. You don't even need to take it to the next step, which we're not even talking about right now, and that really lightens up the load a lot.
And I think something that I've been thinking a lot since you've been talking about right now is that one of the biggest people, in fact, I think the most important person you have a resentment about is yourself.
No doubt.
That is by far the hardest, the most, that is the one, is forgiving yourself and writing down yourself when it feels really uncomfortable, because we're as self-centered as an alcoholic is. An alcoholic also just, at least I found this for myself and for some people I've worked with along the years. is that we carry this burden about ourselves, that we are bad people, that we're horrible people.
Sure, it's really easy to forgive somebody else, and try to forgive yourself.
Right. He's interrupting me.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to talk again because he just interrupted me. But
that's how it works.
I know, but it's not good that way because I was on a train of thought. But it's okay. I don't have a resentment towards you. But I think that it's, and what I was trying to say, and I think I kind of lost my train of thought, but what I was trying to say is that when we sit down and we write these, if we write about I can forgive anybody else. I can write down a resentment towards a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And, but when you say to write one about yourself and truly forgive yourself is it's hard. It took a long time for me. And I feel like that's the most important thing. I mean, family's important, and then, friends, and then I think friends come and go they come in for a season and they leave for a reason. And, but taking the time to really dissect yourself and realize, all right, this is what I don't like about myself,
mm-hmm.
and identifying it and writing it on paper. And 9 out of 10 times, at least for me, it's like, oh my God, I can't believe I did this. I can't believe I did that. And knowing that your higher power has forgiven you, whatever your higher power is, I don't care if it's Jesus, the trees, the squirrels, whatever it is, they've already forgiven you. The universe has already forgiven you.
Correct.
But you forgiving yourself takes a lot of
humility. It really does.
That wasn't what I was going to say. Because a lot of people we've been talking about humility, but you don't understand that it takes a lot of humility. But at the bottom line, at the basic core of the whole entire thing, and not using such strong words maybe, is that it takes chutzpah, it takes time, it's so hard, and to really say, I'm okay with me. Mm-hmm. I am okay with me today. Even though I am an alcoholic, I'm okay. I'm a good person, because a lot of people don't think they're good people. We beat ourselves up.
True.
We beat ourselves up. Mm-hmm. And I think that women, I don't know if men do this as much as women, but I know we carry around this stuff, and talk about a wheelbarrow. I mean, we'll remember things that somebody did to us like 5, 10, 15 years ago and carry it around with us like a badge of honor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very, and we remember it all the time, and we don't set it free, right? And so then we don't like the person. At least that's what happens to me. I don't like the person anymore. And I'm like, I'm not delving back into that. But with myself, I have to go back there every time and be like, all right, Elizabeth, what is going on with you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you had this discussion. You and I've had this discussion over the years between men and women. I don't think men, like most men, don't carry grudges around quite as blatantly as women do.
Oh, I totally agree with you.
But most men also, the grudge that they carry around is the grudge with themselves. That's what they really carry around.
Well, I remember just an example of this, because you just made me think of it.
Mm-hmm.
Men and women. So I remember my son was at camp. He was in his first year. He's like 10 years old. He went to sleepaway camp.
Oh, it's a good story, people.
Is this a good story?
It is a good story.
It's a good story. So he was 10 years old and he goes to camp. And my oldest son has always been, I don't want to say he's big, but he's big. He's a big kid. He's just always been a big kid. He's a big boy. He is my big boy. And I go to camp and I pick him up at the end of the summer, and he's there for 7.5 weeks. And I get there and he has this mohawk and he's reading the New York Times, whatever. I was like, who are you? And I said, how was camp? He said it was good, except for this one kid. And I said, what was up with the one kid? He goes, well, the one kid is kind of a jerk. He nudges me. He does this to me. He does that to me. He's not a good kid. And I'm like, did you beat him up? And he's like, no, Mom, I didn't beat him up. You're not allowed to be physical with people. That's not cool. I'm not going to beat him up. I just think he's kind of a jerk.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh my God. Well, and of course my son wanted to go back the following year to camp. So he goes back the following year, and I call the head of the camp and I'm like, hello, what's up? His name was Jim. I'm not going to say his last name, but whatever. I'm like, what's up, Jim? I really don't want my son in a cabin with this person. Okay, Mrs. Chance. Okay, Mrs. Chance. We won't put him in. We won't put him in. We will put him in the cabin with your son. And I was like, okay, great. So fabulous. So here comes year 2.
Mm-hmm.
So Kent goes up to camp. I get there. I go to pick him up. I'm like, so how's da-da-da-da? And he's like, I'm like, were you in a cabin with him? He's like, oh yeah, Mom. We were in the same cabin together. And I'm like, how did it go? And he's like, what do you mean? It was totally fine, Mom. What do you mean?
He had probably already forgotten about the last year, right?
And I'm like sitting here years later going, oh my God, why is this kid? Why didn't he listen to me? Why is he with this kid still? Oh my gosh, this is horrible. And I wanted to manipulate the entire thing. And Jim was like, whatever, Elizabeth, I got this.
It's funny, it turns out.
This is guys. Guys do not care.
People have been running a boys' camp for 100 years, know how to handle things, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So that was like my first, and I was like, what's up? And you know, me, I'm like, well, I still remember exactly what he did to you. And it's like, whatever, Mom, you're crazy. Why do you hold on to this stuff? He said that to me many times, that child. Said, why do you hold on to stuff? And I think, I don't know if it's all women or if it's just this woman that holds on to stuff, but I do. I hold on to stuff and I carry it and I carry it and I play it around in my head and I play it around in my head some more. And then I eventually get on the phone with my fellow traveler, my sponsor, and I'm like, what should I do? And she's like, you need to write about it. And you need to give it to God. You need to give it to God. That's my higher power, Scott. So I have to give it to God. So that's what I do. I write it down and I realize, like you said earlier, like it's not really, is it worth even carrying this around? No.
Especially when, you know, we always do the same thing with sponsors, right? Like, you write all this stuff down and they're like these other people have, like, they have completely forgotten about it.
Right.
Like they have no idea. Like it's not taking up any space in their heads. It's only taking up space in your head. So get rid of it. Let it go. Free up the space.
Let it go.
You can do something else with that space.
Just like that step before. And I know that people do it out of the big book that he just talked about. And if you don't go to a 12-step program and you're like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about. I get it. And you might not know what we're talking about. And so making a moral inventory of yourself, you can do on your own.
Sure.
I mean, if you're not going to a 12-step room, I mean, for me, they work for me, but if they don't work for you, that's totally cool. And if you have to write it down on a piece of paper yourself and just tell it to somebody, like the stuff that you carry around that keeps you up at night, and write it down, like who you're resentful of, the name, the cause, what happened, what it happened. This is what happened, and write it out on a piece of paper. Like tell the story that you had happen, and then how it affects you. How does it affect you? And you might be like, what do you mean? How does it affect me? Does it affect your other relationships? Does it affect, and 9 out of 10 times it affects a lot of things. It affects, because I think that we can't be present if we're constantly worried about somebody else.
Correct. And with all these things too, it all, I believe anyway, it all affects our esteem, because
it's all about
it just all like makes you feel bad.
Right. So, and if you feel bad, then you don't want to do anything else. You don't want to associate with other people. You don't want to go shopping. You don't want to have relations with your partner.
Right, so
you don't
sit
want
around
to do
saying,
anything.
like, I'm a loser. I'm just going to sit here
and I'm going to have a pity party. Right. The only party nobody wants to ever go to.
Exactly.
And then I think that then, and then writing how it affects you, and then what defects it brings up in you of those 7 deadly sins.
Right.
Yeah. So does it affect your esteem? Does it affect, let's see, what were they again?
Does it affect you financially?
Does it affect you financially, which is greed? Does it affect your lust? Does it affect your envy, gluttony, wrath, pride, sloth? So what of those 7 deadly sins? And then just write it down. That's all step 4 is writing it down.
Yep. Step 4 is not even sharing it with anybody.
No, just write it down.
Just doing the work.
Just write it down. Just write it down in a notebook. At least for me, that's what works for me.
Yeah.
Write it down in a notebook. Write down what it is that you have in your head that's driving you crazy, that you can't stop thinking about. Whoever that person is. If it's a loved one, if it's a spouse, a partner, if it's a family member, if it's a sibling, if it's a kid, if it's a neighbor, if it's this, like whoever it is, if it's an institution, if you hate the presidency, write that down. If you can't stop thinking about the presidency, this election, and either the president or the other nominee for president is driving you crazy, write that down. Write it down.
Sure.
But no need to like get fret about it. I think that's something that like people are just carrying this stuff around and it makes them angry and then it comes out sideways. I was listening to something today where they were talking about how in today's world is the first time that people are just like really against each other. Like nobody, if you are one way, then you're only that way. And if you're this way, you're that way. But there's no, like, you can't even be friends with a person who's the other way. And that obviously jacks one up, meaning it gets you emotionally you're in, like for me, it's like you're emotionally not in a good place. If that's where you are.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So just reacting with it along with everybody else. A lot of bad stuff going on. Good to let go. It's funny when you were talking about like it could be your neighbor, it could be this, it could be that, it could be anything in it. And I'll relay a little story.
Please do.
It's not about me, it's about my dad. And when I was growing up, and we had this toaster oven, and he hated it. And he had such a resentment for this toaster oven. He would yell at it every day. He'd get angry at it every day. He just couldn't stand it. And so he brought a new toaster. He brought a new toaster oven home, and he took the old one, and he took it out. And he beat it up with a hammer and threw it in the trash. But it could be anything. It could be a toaster oven. It's a little extreme, but I get it. I get it. It's just whatever it is.
You got to write it down.
Write it down and get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Because I think it's the act. Somebody told me a long time ago. And if you don't believe in God, you don't have to believe this. But like for me, this person said to me, when you write it on paper, it's like you're literally writing it and giving it to God, because you're getting it out of here, you're getting it on paper, and you're giving it to somebody else.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's like you're like physically taking it from here, putting it in your pen, writing it on the paper.
And I never liked typing it on a computer.
No, I don't think that that's a cool way to do it anyway. No, they say.
I never like that.
I know there's people who do it.
People like to do spreadsheets and all that stuff.
Oh, I know people that have written like 10 spreadsheets. We have a friend who's no longer on here anymore. And he was like, and he passed away, but I think he wrote his on a complete, huge, humongous spreadsheet. I think that's what he did. And it's pretty, I think that everybody's got to do what they have to do. I think that whatever feels comfortable for you, I think that the problem is that sometimes we're not comfortable with things and other people want us to do it. And we're like, but this doesn't feel comfortable. But I think you've got to just take the time to be comfortable. I think you've got to take the time to be comfortable.
And what's all the fear about? Let's talk about it.
What do you think the fear is about?
You said some people have so much fear that they just leave.
The fear that somebody's going to find out.
Or it's just going to be, do you think it's that, or it's just that it's like going to be so overwhelming that I won't be able to handle it?
That's why I think unpacking it slowly is important.
That's why it's good to have a good spiritual advisor.
A good spiritual advisor is so important, because so many people just are like, come on, dive down deep. And you're like, I'm not ready to go there. And I think that is, that has to be respected. I think people have to listen to people. And I think people have to, I think people really need to take the time and realize that some people aren't like us and they need time.
Yeah. And a lot of new people really need that, I think.
They need time, and everybody wants to rush you through it really quickly. And I get it. And I think back in the day, a long time ago, when at least the 12-step program was invented 83 years ago or something, I think that it was a different time. And I think today people have more stuff that's going on that you would never, ever, ever think is going on. And I don't want people to get scared away because they didn't do whatever they think they're supposed to do properly. And I think especially as alcoholics, we want to be perfect at this. We're like, we want to get this done perfectly. And it's so important to do it perfectly. And there is no perfection.
No, that's a really good that you brought that up, you know, because I mean, perfectionism really runs, you know, deep in with alcoholics.
So deep.
And, you know, the problem with perfectionism is it tends to
I'm
like,
multitasking.
I don't know what you're doing.
But it's okay. You don't have to worry about it.
Nothing gets done. So, you know, I there's a saying I really like that really applies to this too. And that is, you know, don't let the best get in the way of the good enough. And that's all it needs to be, is just needs to be good enough. You know, it doesn't need to be the best. It's not going to be the worst. It just needs to be good enough. And good enough it means that you've managed to lighten up your load a little bit. That's all.
Don't let somebody pressure you into not doing a little bit. Because if you're like, I feel like I wrote this and this made me feel a little freer. Hey, baby, that's all it's about.
Yep.
Getting a little bit of freedom so that you start to like yourself a little bit more, and that the load isn't so heavy that we carry around. Right?
Exactly.
It's not perfect. I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be perfect.
Never, ever, ever. There's no human that can be perfect at anything.
No. And so once you give that up, I mean, I feel like I'm blessed in that I've never been done anything perfectly. It's true. I remember when I was younger, my mom was like, I've been needle pointing since I was 5 years old, pretty much my whole life. And I'd needle point, my mom would be like, look at your backs. They look terrible. And I'd be like, yeah, that's me. They're not perfect. They're not perfect. I'm like, yeah, that's me. So from a young age, I'd have to get to that place where I was like, I'm not perfect. When they'd have the quiet contest, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not winning a quiet contest. I will lose the quiet contest because I want to talk. So from day one, I did that. I think taking the time to give it just a little bit, just to write a little bit. And the longer you stay without a drink, the more stuff will come out. It's just a total new thing that you're going to be doing, that you're just going to be like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. Even though it feels weird that I'm writing this stuff down, it's not what I want to do. It's worth it.
But we can both assure you that just doing it is going to make you feel much
oh my gosh, just doing it. Even one thing. I don't even care if it's one sentence, whatever it is. It's like, oh, I did it. It doesn't have to be 10 pages long. It doesn't have to be in format. It doesn't have to be anything. It just has to be your handwriting. It can be done in a crayon. Shit, whatever you want to do it in.
It's so funny. I used to go to this meeting. There was this guy that he was from New York City, and so he had the New York City attitude, and he was a lot of fun. And he liked to talk about the fourth step. And he always said the same thing. He goes, you know, the person I did a fourth step, I had this sponsor, and he was like bugging me, like, you got to do a fourth step. You got to do a fourth step. And so I wrote like, I don't know, like 2.5 pages of stuff. And so he just picked it up and he just threw it in the trash. And he said, that's not enough. You can do better than that. So he said, so then I sat down and I wrote. I gave him this thing that was like this thick, and he picked it up and he looked at me, he threw it in the trash. He said, you're not that important. Now I'm going to show you how to do it.
Oh my God. And he stayed sober.
Oh, absolutely. He's been sober for like 45 years. But they were, you know, first of all, it's guys, right? And it just was kind of different like 20, 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It was more like a locker room.
It sounds like it was 45 years ago.
It was a long time ago for him. Yeah.
Yeah.
Long time ago for him.
And it's imperative that you at least take the time to realize, like, I'm going to write some stuff down about myself, and somebody might not ever read it.
But I think you're right. You talk about, that's what I always tell people too, is like, let's start closest to you and then kind of work out and see where you want to get to. So we'll start with you, and then we'll start with your family, and then we'll go to the people you grew up with, and then, you know, and you can go from there, and you can kind of, you know, go in whatever direction you want to, or not, you know. But I think that's the most important thing is, you know, it's the people you live with now, and probably the people you grew up with are the most important ones besides yourself.
Yeah. And I think that don't give up before the miracle happens.
No, absolutely.
I think the most important thing is like not drinking. So that's number one. If you haven't drank and you're like even considering this, I'm going to say to you, woohoo!
Well, nothing works.
You
without
must be
step
running
one.
with
That's
gas.
right.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
like pretty great
Mhm.
because I think that a lot of people don't even get to that place. And if you've gotten to this place where you're like, I want to change some more, I want to do a little more work. This is some work. This is some work.
Mhm.
And doing that is, I just have to commend you if you are here and you're doing this, or you want to even do it,
Mhm.
and you're even interested in listening to this.
But I'm telling you, it's not that bad.
It's
not that
if you
bad.
do a little bit at a time.
Yeah, it's just not that
That's
bad.
what I needed to do. A little bit at a time.
Yeah, it's not. Doesn't need to be this thing. I tried. I wanted to try this different method one time. So I had this this special method of how to do the fourth step, and so the sponsor told me. He said you need to. You have 2 weeks. You need to write down the name of every person you've ever met in your life.
Yeah, I don't remember everybody.
And he said, because they're all going to go on your resentment list because anyone you've ever met, you had a resentment towards. That's their theory of this, right? And it was, it's just crazy. Like that's way too much. that's going way overboard.
I mean, some people are into doing that, and I just think that
like, I met a guy 44 years ago. I met a guy on a train. I remember, whatever. I remember my next door neighbor when I was 2.
Like, I don't remember. I have a really bad memory. I really do. I do not, and I do take lion's mane, but I still do not have a great memory. I don't have a great memory. I know. I can't
remember where my phone is, but I can remember what happened when I was 1. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, like I cannot remember that at all.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember anything. I have to look up dates all the time. I have no idea. I'm terrible with all that. Terrible. Mm-hmm. I don't have a brain like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'll remember somebody's face for sure. And I'll go on my Rolodex and I'll be like, how do I know that person? How do I know that person? How do I know that person?
And you usually figure it out.
I do. Sometimes it's after I've left a building that I've seen the person, but there's people who are like, I just don't remember. There's so much that goes on in my brain sometimes that it's just overload and I just don't remember. Well, I don't want to hurt people's feelings. I just don't remember.
Mm-hmm. I don't think you hurt people's feelings
anymore. I hope not. Well, I'm sure I pissed some people off. Not everybody. I saw this shirt that somebody had on. It says, not everybody likes me. I'm like, I'm not everybody's taste or something. It's like, I like that. Mm-hmm. I'm definitely not everybody's taste. That's okay. It's okay. It's like, not everybody's going to like me. It's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. If I like me, that's all that's what I'm really, getting. That's where I'm trying to get to. And you like me.
Well, I love you.
Oh, he loves me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do like you as well. Yeah.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. My kids like me, I think, kind of. Yeah. They like me. Mm-hmm. My friends like me. It's good. It's good. This is an awesome podcast. This was good.
I think that, I guess we'll pick it up next week with step 5.
Step 5. With that, reach out and call me if you need to. No, email me. I'm going to give you my email address. And I have some changes coming in the future. Yeah, there's some changes happening at Busy Living Sober.
Tell us about it.
I'm not going to tell about it right now.
You can't tell about it.
Can't tell about it.
Ooh, see, that's something. That's a teaser.
It's a little teaser. Get you to come back next time. Mm-hmm. No, I'll write something eventually. It's going to happen. I just need to. I'm still pondering.
Gotcha.
But there's changes.
I'm kind of excited. I haven't heard about this.
He hasn't.
No,
not everybody gets to hear the ins and outs of Busy Living Sober from Busy. But anyway,
I'm not in the inner circle.
There is no inner circle. This is the circle. See, circle. No, I do have advisors and people, and you are one of them. And so it's just sitting with them what I'm deciding to do. But there could be changes coming up. And I want you to know that if you're out there and you're listening or you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to our channel. It's awesome. I think because it'd be nice. Just subscribe if you like what you hear. Now, if you don't like what you hear, don't subscribe. Don't subscribe.
Stop listening.
But if you like what you hear and you want to reach out, you can always reach me at busy, BIZZY at busylivingsober.com, and that's BUSY livingsober.com.
You got it. That's right.
I got it. I got that right. And then I was just going to say, if you forget that, you can always reach me at Elizabeth at elizabethchance.com as well. Look at that. I have 2.
How about that?
2 email addresses. Actually, more than
if you want to reach me, you have to email her because I don't have any email.
And if you're out there and you're struggling, we're thinking of you. And our prayers go out to you. And we send you big kisses. Lots of love. And until next time, keep getting busy, living
Sober.
sober. Bye-bye, everybody. Take care.
Bye.